great. The first thing we must do though is we need to get those numbers. So if it's projects, what's the numbers? What's the number of clients, number of candidates? Then we build our data set. Then we put them into a campaign. Then we start getting our A's, B's, and C's come in. Then that data set we then use for, we use it for multiple things. But without this though, this step one, we don't actually know how we're actually doing longer term. It's not a real business plan. We're moving forward with what we think is right now, but without a progression plan. So we must get those real numbers up front. So for example, if you, as you said, it could be an in, and you look at that and you think, look at that client, let's call it client type A. Client type A needs candidate type A, B, C, D, etc. So that activity then becomes, we build a data set up for that. We put up A, B, C, D. Then you've got something that becomes almost a machine-like. You keep providing candidates for that client. But what we must know first of all, what are the numbers? Does that make sense, Mark?
Sure, no, with you.
So in terms of actions, what I want you to do is you can break it down a number of ways. You could do, what I suggest you do is this. If you do operators and you do projects, and then you do it by country, so South Africa, Canada, etc. Okay, break it down that way. It's going to give you some matrices which we can use. So we're going to have it break down again into clients, into candidates, clients, and candidates. Then what we can do is we can look at that and say, right, let's create an automated process here where we get the candidate, we get the client, and then we just match them up. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, because without that, for example, if there's 2,000 candidates in the niche, and you want to become the guy who provides those candidates, without that, we don't know what our finish line is. Without knowing that there's 2,000 candidates, we don't know when we've done our job, and we move on to the next phase. And we move on to the next conversion point. So we need that as our one of our first milestones. Does that make sense, Mark?
Okay. No, the client. Okay, I got you in terms of, penetrating a client. I understand. Yes. So then yes, we've covered the market. So yes, okay. Now we've definitely covered the whatever it is, the market we've selected and the people that we're looking for. But now, okay, so we just at least have a line in the sand to know, okay, we've covered that. There's no more work at the moment, but let's just nurture it. Is that what you're saying? So you nurture that, and then you say, okay, well, that's all the work that's in that space. We've done it, or we're doing it. We can grow. Let's go into the next one.
I'm saying one of two things. So, for example, Keith, you guys know Keith. Keith did extremely well when he started going and using double R, that is, did extremely well. And for whether it's months or even indeed years, what Keith did at that point, he went from, I can't remember the exact sub niches now, but went from, say, media sales niche 1, media sales niche 2. All he did was run double R. Went from one niche to another niche, no nurturing, and did extremely well. And then he had a commission-only recruiter, so basically the client leads came in, the candidates came in, then commission-only recruiters then matched them up together. So what I'm saying is this, you're absolutely right, nurturing is important. However, also, campaigns are important. So it could be, so for example, if I made a decision, my niche is going to be South Africa mining. So what I'd want to do and I found out there were 10,000 clients in South Africa mining, okay? I know I'm being high level here. What I'd be saying is, so quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4, so every 90 days, I'd be running a campaign for those 10,000, okay? I put all 10,000 through every single 90 days, maybe more if I mix the campaigns up, but it's going to be high level now. So campaign 1, then I put through, so that's campaign 1, and then I put through another campaign 90 days later. So this now becomes an automated process you're not involved with. You've got the data, your VA's running it. All we do is using a different template than campaign 2, then of course campaign 3, etc. So that's my niche, okay? And then you're absolutely right. What about those who don't engage or don't become clients? We nurture them. So so in that niche, we then take them into a nurturing process. We put 10,000 into a nurturing process from January through to December, etc., etc. We automate that entire process. So we become the go-to man in that niche. So that's one thing we should be doing. But the second thing we could be doing is this. If you run a campaign, say for example, for supervisors in South Africa, and you kill it, and all you're doing is building data, using templates, putting through a campaign, getting appointments, then you're using the conversion call to actually close that appointment. And let's say for every 1,000 clients you bring in out of the air, bring in 30 roles, okay? And you look at that and you say, right, there's 1,000 clients in South Africa, or 2,000, and that becomes 60 roles. Then you go to Canada, you run a test, and you run the same campaign, but with some obviously changes based on the exact avatar of our client. You run the exact same campaign, and that may well bring in business for you for the foreseeable future without nurturing. However, nurturing should be used because that gives us the long-term, or part of the long-term growth and certainty.